This is the middle of a game of Heart of the Swarm on the ladder, and this is my 7cc transition off of the three orbital opener. Right now, I'll have 10 orbitals, 11 orbitals, and then I can suicide off most of my SCVs and end up with an 160 army supply. And this is, basically how I do TVZ on Wings of Liberty. And our army supply, I'm actually ahead on army supply at this point. I've got a bigger army than him, and at this point I'm $1,000 ahead on damage done. We both have the same number of workers. We both have the same amount of gas income. We're on this map where everybody gets 4 bases, but nobody gets more than 4 bases unless they can win a battle. So it's kind of like Antigua Shipyards, except with an extra base. So it all comes down to who wins this next fight. So both of us are going to gear up for a pretty early battle for supremacy, because whoever wins that battle gets to take additional bases, and whoever loses it doesn't. And so that comes down to, the whole game right there. So my army, which is bigger than his army, is kind of eclectic and weird. It's like 7 Thors, 2 Banshees, 6 Hellions, 2 tanks, 2 mines, 3 Marines, and 2 Ravens. And his army is much more focused and deadly. He's got just some swarm hosts, man. Swarm host, infestor, broodlord, with a smattering of lings. So, as you can see, upgraded Thors kind of do well against everything once you have more than 6 of them, and I have 7 of them, so that's good. But I don't really know what to do against this. Because infestors are the ultimate defensive unit, right? If you walk into an infestor's range, like if you attack into him, he wins. It's only attacking that is hard to do with infestors, kind of tricky to do. But swarm hosts are also this defensive unit where, like, I can't go on top of your swarm hosts because they keep spawning these free units that each kill a Thor. Like, each wave of swarm hosts kills another Thor. So usually I would, again, I mean, the Heart of the Swarm ladder is a little tricksy in that you play so many bad players mixed in with the good players that you things that you think works only work because it was against a bad player. So the idea of killing them with Cloak Banshees just didn't work at all, because he just has an Overseer and some Infestors, and he's like, well, that didn't work for you, haha. And now I don't really know what to do. I guess a big, massive siege tanks would sort of negate the Locusts, but then the Broodlords just would crush siege tanks, right? Because they have the Broodlings, which are melee range, which just do really well against anyone who wastes money on siege tanks. So this composition of Infestor, Swarm Host, Broodlord, it's kind of confusing me. I'm sure there's a great way to deal with it. I just need to think about it more and go on the unit test map and try things out. But unfortunately, the unit test map I'm used to using doesn't exist in the beta. I mean, there is a unit test map, but it's so much more tedious. You have to create the units yourself, and you can't control who gets vision of what, so you can't test anything to do with mines or cloaked units. And, it's just not as good. So I don't know, I'll just have to think about this more. But anyway, this was my first encounter with the Swarm Host, Broodlord, Infestor composition with Banelings protecting it. And once he's knocked down enough Thors, like throughout this whole time, he's trading nothing for gas. And TVZ late game is just a race to see who can mine more gas and turn more gas into an army. You both have this giant Doom gas army, and that's what it's all about. So we're both mining the same amount of gas, and yet he's killing all my gas units in exchange for nothing. So that's working out well for him. So I went from $1,000 ahead to $2,000 behind, and I'm just kind of falling apart. So I don't know what to tell you, man. We'll just shut up and watch, I guess. So the whole idea of this millions of orbitals is to take all of my SCVs off mining and then end up making my red bar bigger than his blue bar. And it's working, as you can see. Like, he has bigger supply, but I have a bigger army because I'm using orbitals instead of workers to get my minerals to come in. So it's 81 army supply against 54. But I just didn't make the right units, I guess. I don't know. I'm still 2-2 on my Thors, where he's 3-3 on the ground. I'm just finishing Seeker Missile now, but I only have like 1 Raven, so that's not really going to be the answer. Hellions, I guess? The thing is, it takes 3 shots from a 3/3 Blue Flame Hellion just to kill a Locust, so Hellions don't do well at all against Locusts. Plus, Locusts have 3 range, so they just really rip Hellions up. I don't know. I mean, I've faced locusts, swarm hosts a bunch of times, and they've never seemed very scary to me because, as you can see, he has a smaller army, like a much smaller army, 70 to 40. I feel like locusts are really expensive, and they're $100 per supply, so they're not a good Doom Army unit in that they're not as expensive as like broodlords or ultras or infestors. But man, a small number of them mixed with the other Doom units just seems to do really well. But it's mostly my indecisiveness. Maybe if I'd made pure Thor, I would have won. Or maybe if I'd mixed the proper units in the right recipe, I would have won. Anyway, I eventually cleaned up his army, but the damage has been done. He's ahead on damage done, as well as having a bigger gas income as me. He can knock down these two geysers, so he's up 4 geysers on me. And like I said, it's all about the gas income. So we're in a race to see who can spend more gas, and he's 4 geysers up. He's double my gas income ish, right? 1,000 to 900. I guess not quite double. Not even close to double. How come? Oh, because I just got these geysers. Anyway, he was ahead in gas for a long time, and now I've caught up. But that period of time where he was ahead, he built this pool of 2,000 gas where I'm like gasless. So here it comes with the 3/3 Ultra Infesterling, and again, my army supply is bigger than his. It's 105 army supply to 99 army supply, but my army is pretty out of position, split into multiple places. He gets a great surround, and just kind of that's the end. I think if I'd had PFs in front with Thors behind them and had my whole army in position and no Vikings, then I would have been able to resist that push, but as is, this is the end for me, bro. Anyway, it's just kind of like homework, man. Think about this. Swarm Host, Broodlord, Infestor. What beats that? What beats that? Because we know that Thor Hellion is good against Broodlord Infestor. Especially if you start adding Ravens and BCs and Seeker Missiles and some Cloaked Banshees. But adding the Swarm Hosts to that, they do so well against the Thors that I don't know. I feel like you need something in front of the Thors to be tanking the Locusts, but nothing really does good at tanking Locusts, because Locusts do a crap ton of damage. And their vulnerability is that they only last for a limited amount of time, and you're supposed to kind of run away from them and then flank and kill the actual Swarm Hosts and stuff like that. But you can't do any sort of maneuvering with mech. It's not maneuverable at all. So what can stand its ground against that? I would guess it's probably going to be the same answer. It's probably just that I didn't have enough upgrades on my Thors or didn't have enough Thors or something. But we shall see, man. We shall see.